Hello, Graham Vincent, violin maker and musician. I wanted to have a quick chat about the weather. I'm standing here in a shirt that's got water drops all over it because I've just been out in the rain, and as the seasons change, as we head from mid-autumn heading towards winter, obviously that does have an effect on violins. So several things to discuss, really, to put together in how this all works. First of all, violins, quite obviously, are made out of timber. Timber is, you can imagine it as a series of hollow tubes, like drinking straws. Think of me holding a great big bundle of drinking straws. You can imagine you could squash them easily that way, but it would be very difficult to change the length that way, and that is what timber is like. As it dries out, that bundle will shrink. As it absorbs moisture from the air, that bundle will expand. Because of the shape of the violin, and I've got this little camera which I'm going to point at a drawing I've done. So this is a rather crude drawing of a cross-section through a violin. I think you can see that's the bridge up there, and then there's the curved front, the curved back, the ribs, and the sound post. So this is sawn through the body of the violin just behind the bridge, really. But the important thing to consider is what happens to this sound post. Because don't forget, if this front is contracting that way, if the back's doing the same, when it contracts it will tend to want to straighten out, so it will pull down, that the actual height of the arch will reduce, and that will pull up, as in they will move together, and so they will grip that sound post more tightly than it is held previously. Equally, if the violin absorbs water from the air, then they're going to expand, so that arch will increase in height, that one will increase in height, and so the grip on the sound post will reduce. A couple of things to consider here. First of all, timber itself in a violin behaves differently to sound when it's very dry or when it's slightly damper. When it's very dry, it responds very well to treble, and the violin will be louder as well. So you've got a loud, bright violin, but also, if it's well set up, it will still have that lovely, deep, rich resonance as well. When it picks up moisture from the air, it'll tend to lose a little bit of that brilliance on the sound, and it will be just a little bit quieter. There's something else going on, of course. As the violin dries out, the grip on the sound post increases. As the grip on the sound post increases, if it's already reasonably tight, it may well choke the sound, so that the rich, resonant part of the sound, which is really, really important to the sound of a violin, will start to go. When the violin becomes damper, that grip will be released and it will be free to move, but a lot of the treble will go and the volume of the violin will back off slightly. I mean, also in extremis, if the violin, when it's dry, is holding the sound post too tightly, it can actually split the front or the back, or certainly it can put dents in the underside of the front, in the soft spruce. So you don't want a sound post that's too tight, although it's quite tempting to do that because that ensures it won't fall over when the violin relaxes its grip on the sound post as it picks up moisture. So it's a bit of a juggling act, like so many things in violin making and in violin playing. It's a compromise, which we have to, it's a line we tread carefully to try and get that about right. If you're worried that the sound post is too tight because the sound is choked and restricted, then it's time to take the violin to a luthier to have it examined. Obviously, if the sound post falls over, get it to a violin maker or a luthier straight away to have that sorted out. The other things that can happen, of course, because the shape of the arching is changing, that will effectively change the height of the bridge in relation to the neck. So it can, in a fairly small way, affect the actual action of a violin, the neck projection, as the violin picks up or loses moisture. Another thing to consider is the pegs. Pegs aren't varnished over most of their length, the actual action part of the length, the bit that's gripped and the bit in the peg box. And so they lose moisture more quickly and they absorb water more quickly than the varnished timber surrounding them. So if you leave your violin out in a warm, dry situation, you do want to occasionally tune the violin so that you're making sure the pegs aren't gripped too tightly in the violin, or conversely they're not becoming too loose. And this is one of the dangers with having 4 fine tuners, is that you can actually leave the violin a very long time without playing with the pegs. And you do need to touch the pegs occasionally to make sure that they're not gripped too firmly or they're too loose. What else? Let me think. I would say just be careful with your violin, avoid extreme changes of temperature, don't take it out in the rain, and it is a really good idea to have it looked at by someone once in a while, maybe once a year is probably a sensible amount of time. Hope that helps. I've probably forgotten some things. If anything springs to mind, I will probably put it in the comments below. But there we go. Hope to talk to you again soon. See you again soon. Cheers. Bye.